Yo, what's up guys? This is Dread. You haven't seen me in ages. From the Trinity of Lift, bringing you a Qliphort deck profile. Get started here with the most iconic monster of the deck, the Scouts. Scouts, it's your search, 3+1s. You need it. Don't ever leave your house without it. Next on the list, we have another 3 monsters. Well, monsters that are easily very powerful in the deck. You have carriers and helixes. You run 3 each. Carrier and helix is simple removal. Helix is spin stuff back. Or not helix is spin stuff back. Carrier spin stuff back. Helix is MST. And you're constantly going to be able to get them back because when you tribute them, they go to extra, which is like where you can pendulum summon them from anyway. So it's free and easy removal. Next, we got triple stealth. Stealth is, it's very, you're gonna see it often when you play against Qliphorts because it's just such a great card. It's a compulse that you can't respond to, and it's a pretty big monster too. It's also got all the nifty Qliphort effects where it's like, hey, I'm immune to everything that's lower level than me because I'm superior. Next, you have 2 Disc. Disc helps you push for game. Just put damage in, and it also gets Qliphorts out of your deck. Because when you summon him, he just summons 2, and then those 2 will die and then go to extra, which is very easy for you to get your monsters back from, because all you gotta do is pendulum. Now we're getting into one of Qliphort monsters that I run, starting with Shell. Shell is another monster that you use to push for game. Just puts a lot of damage in because he can attack twice and he pierces. And if you limited removal this guy, that's like GG, even through Destiny Hero Defender. Yeah, I think so. Monolith, it's your draw power. You really only run one because of the other 2 other monsters that you run in the deck that are really strong. But it's still nonetheless useful, and you should at least run 1. Next, you have Towers. Towers is the super boss monster on a really hard to kill. Has a great activation effect. And is fairly easy to get out with this deck, considering that it's just Pendulum and Tribute. And then you're all good. Next 2 monsters aren't really monsters, it's just hand traps. Effect Veiler. Effect Veiler is good. General use card. Run 2. I only run 2. You can run 3 if you want. Personal preference. Trampolinx. Trampolinx helps you make plays. With Trampolinx, you can double scout because his effect lets you target a monster in the pendulum zone and bounce it. So you can double scout, as well as when you pendulum, you can touch your extra deck because the Qliphort Scout will leave the pendulum zone, and then you don't have that restriction of you can only summon Qli monsters. Very useful card. Just run it at 2. You don't really need to. It's great to see it, but it's not something very pivotal to your plays. It just helps you get more utility out of your extra deck, which normally in most cases you will never ever touch in Qliphorts. Moving on to the deck, let's get into traps. Recreate. Recreate's useful. It's monster effect negation, but because it's mandatory, it runs into a lot of hiccups with optional effects. Mainly Satellar Knights, Shazam monsters. If it's optional, Recreate won't hit it, because it has to go chain 1. You can run it, like, you shouldn't ever run it at more than 1 because it's searchable. You can easily get it with Scout. Next traps, we have Lose 1 Turn. Really great Floodgate card that Qliphorts can run very effectively because they can play under it very well. All of their main monsters are normal summoned, so they're unaffected by Lose 1 Turn. Whereas other decks are screaming in agony because they can't do anything. Again, it's just a card that is kind of cloggy at 3, at least I think, so I ran it at 2. Next, Fiendish Chain. More monster effect negation, also prevents attacks, which is also very useful. Basically just make a monster on board useless. Next, we have one of traps mainly. Solemn, great card. Just negate a summon, stop summons, and also great against pendulum decks. because you will stop all the monsters that come out. Same thing with the next card, Bottomless. It's just a general use card, stops summons, well not stops the summon, but just keeps the monster from hitting board. And banishes it too, which is nice. More Floodgates to round out the traps is Vanity's Emptiness and Skill Drain. Skill Drain is very helpful for Qliphorts, because then they ignore their normal summon without tribute effect, and they get their attacks bumped up to the usual 2800, or in Helix and Carrier's case, 24, I believe. Vanities is great as well. It just stops special summons. Floodgate, set your board, flip Vanities, and watch your opponent struggle. That wraps it up for the traps. Now we can get into the spells, starting off with everyone's favorite equip card of 4 things. Sacrifice. You're going to be going into this all the time because, well, it's just such a great card. Like, getting this early really helps because then you can sacrifice for Qli's much more effectively. I'm getting confused on my wordage. Spells. Next we got Summoner's Art. Search card gets you your scouts, and if you already have scouts, you can use it to get a monolith. It's great, especially in this deck, because it specifically allows you to search the scouts. More spells, Upstart Goblins, thins out your deck, adds more consistency. Now we have Pot of Duality. Pot of Duality is easily usable in this deck because all your strong plays come from your normal summon, so it doesn't really restrict you. So you can just use Pot of Duality and then be like, just set yourself up for the next turn, because you don't necessarily need to go off immediately. You can just Pot of Duality, set your hand up so that it's better for the next turn, and then when it comes to the next turn, then you can Pendulum and normal and get into your big plays. Rounding out spells, getting towards the end, double MST. MST is useful. It's just spell removal, back row hate. When you see him like popping a Mirror Force, this is helpful because I hate getting Mirror Forced. Everyone hates getting Mirror Forced. Raigeki, board nuke, simple. And last one, limit removal. I run this personally because it's just a fun card. Limit removal your shell and then just hit for game. This is also, yeah, if I didn't mention it earlier, it's also a more fun-oriented Qliphort build. Something I just kind of play at locals to mess around. And now let's get into the extra deck. Again, you won't touch this too often unless you have your Trampolinks on board, because Trampolinks allows you to touch extra, but this is just like general utility kind of cards that I have that you can make with Qliphorts. Felgrand, Monster Negation, as Monster Effect Negation, as well as just being a stick that's hard to kill. Then we have 2 cards that help with your Burning Abyss matchup. Burning Abyss and Shaddolls, which is Ptolemaeus and Diamond. Ptolemaeus, you can get into it really easily because it's just 2 4s, which is 2 special summon Qlis or normal without tribute Qlis. Then you can just go to main phase 2, make this guy. Or if you don't wanna, if you kinda wanna just sit on Ptolemaeus, so I just threw Deltaros in here. Because I mean, you don't usually touch extra, it's just there for utility. Next, you got your Arc and Castel, which is more monster removal. Just get stuff off board, take care of problem monsters easily. And you have 2 cards, which is like Steel Games, Heartland Draco and Cowboy. Heartland Draco just attacks directly, Cowboy is like just shoot 800, Steel Game. It's awesome. Then you have Rhapsody and Berserk. Banishing cards from graveyard is important, especially against a lot of decks in this format. And Cairn Gorgon is the last one. Cairn Gorgon is just effect redirection, like, yeah. Your opponent tries to MST, you just drop Cairn Gorgon. You use Cairn Gorgon's effect. And that pretty much wraps it up for this Qliphort deck profile. Thanks for watching. See you later.